as you can see, we have the old LS3 Miata on the lift today because it is crunch time. We have just a few days to get this thing fully ready for the Clutch Kickers 100K GIF series. For those of you who don't know, it's a pretty exciting series, $20,000 payout each round. It's what I'm really focusing on this year as like my main thing that I want to do. Like everything else is a little less important. This is the main goal, is to make it to all of these rounds. So I want to make sure I am as prepared as possible when I get there. And there are some long overdue things that need to get done to this car. We've got a little bit of a gremlin that I've been chasing down and we still haven't figured out yet. And we've got a couple other problems that have just been persistent and they're workable. We've been able to work around them, but we need to fix them. We need to fix them. We need this car in tip-top shape if we want a chance. I mean, we're going against guys with Pro 1 level 1,000 horsepower cars. Like, we need every bit of help we can get in this little guy. Not to say anything bad about the old Miata. She's a unit, but we can be a little outgunned here. That's all I'm saying. So, old girl needs to be ready. Empty out this clutch fluid so we don't make too much of a mess when we pull the trans out. I always use a turkey baster to try to suck as much as I can out of the reservoir. This means less mess underneath. You may be asking yourself, why is Taylor replacing the transmission? And that's a good question. And the reason is we've been having some serious trouble with the 2 to 3 shift on this transmission. And that is a very important shift because at Clutch Kickers, I start out in second gear because first is so short and it's got the torque to start in second. It helps with wheel spin off the line, not getting it rather. So start in second, shift to third, initiate, run the whole track in third. So it is the most important shift of all of the gear changes that could happen in this transmission. 2 to 3 is the one that we need to work right, and it's the one that's not working right. So right now, I can't shift it fast, and I can't shift it at high RPM. So I can't bang the gear no matter what, and I can't shift it, period, at high RPM. So what I have to do is take off in second, shift to third pretty much immediately, but nice and slow into third, and then go. Now that's not a problem for fun events, but at comp, it is a drag race to the entry. It is just a full-on drag race, and if you lose that drag race, you're going to be making up that ground the whole run. You need to be as close as you can when you start the run to give you the best chance of winning, because you got to be as close to your opponent as possible. And it is hard enough to keep up with some of these really fast cars with a good working, properly shifting transmission. So with a transmission where I can't shift it fast or I can't shift it at high RPM, we're going to have a hard time. So we're going to try to fix that by changing the transmission. Now, it's not a huge ordeal, but there's some work involved. There is some work involved. Ooh. Ooh. Well, this might be worse than I thought. All right, so one thing I didn't think about when I thought through doing this trans swap was the long tubes. So I've pulled the trans out in the car before, really not that difficult, but the long tubes make it a new challenge. So pulling the trans out, we're pulling just the trans out. So we're leaving the bell housing in, the trans separates from the bell housing. We can't get the bell housing out in the car, there's not enough room. But we can pull just the trans out, which is all we need to pull out. We're not doing anything with the clutch, we just need to pull the transmission itself out and replace it. The long tubes, however, cut in kind of right in front of that plate where the trans bolts onto the bell housing, and I don't think we're going to be able to get it out with the long tubes in. So I'm hoping that if we unbolt the long tubes, let them droop down, that'll be enough to get it out. We'll see. All right, well, this long tube doesn't really go anywhere when you try to drop it, but this one dropped down pretty dang far. This one actually seems like it would come out pretty easy. So I think with the one down, hopefully I can get it out. We'll see. I'm not 100% sure. Before we go any further though, got to assemble a new tool. Well, every time I pull the trans out of this car, I do it with this thing. And it really is a two-person job with this, because I set it on this and you really need someone to stabilize it while you like screw this down. Because of that, I like being able to do everything by myself if I can. It's just the way I am. I don't know. It's just nice. So anyway, I got a trans jack. I've had it for a bit now, but I just hadn't had a use for it. So we got a Ranger trans jack. So I'm going to get this thing out, get it set up, and see if we can't pull this bad girl out. It's become my press brake workbench. The shop is packed right now. Need to kind of pay attention to that clutch arm.
That's the other thing. Last time I was up there,
Push your nose back up there.
it wasn't even that, it was the quarter.
Alright, trans is out. Need to swap the plate, the throttle bearing, and the shifter to the other trans. I don't even call it a new trans because it is very unnew. And toss it back in. It's going to be a bit of a challenge. Getting it past this header flange was tricky, but shouldn't be too bad. So this is actually the trans that was in the car when I first built it. If you've been around for a while, you may remember that. Built the car, took it drifting for the first time. Just had a very simple wet sump, no AccuSump, no nothing. Rod knocked the motor first drift event. Put together a new motor, a little bit nicer motor, dry sump, and I was having issues with this trans going into fifth. So I went ahead and put another trans in it. Now, it wouldn't go in at all. I think the problem was that the adapter plate, the rod was hitting the adapter plate and just not letting it go in. So fifth might be fine. I might have ruined it trying to get it in on the drag strip, but either way, we don't need fifth. We need first through fourth. So more of a test of theory. If this works and this is all good and sorted, ideally I'll buy just a brand new OEM trans because you can get them brand new. I mean, it's a little pricey. It's like $1,600, but used ones are getting up to $800-900 anyway. So I figured I have this one here. It's been sitting here. First through fourth worked. We'll toss it in. We'll see how it is. Still went flying.
There it goes.
Freaking RTV seal. All right, so this is the Selector Rod. It's kind of pointy, as you can see, and I think this was what this hitting the adapter plate was preventing the trans from going into fifth. Originally, I ground it down on the new trans that we just took out. I'm gonna grind it down on this one. We're gonna put the plate and everything on and toss it back in.
Wait.
Adapter plate swapped on, snugged very lightly. Gonna let the RTV tack up for about 10 minutes. While we're waiting for it to tack up before we torque it, throw the shifter on. Needs to go like lower on the bell housing, if that makes sense.
Alright, that's it.
Okay. All right, well, we got the trans back in. It was not too bad, just getting past this flange here. Real tricky because, you know, the spline has to be relatively lined up for you to go forward enough to get past it. You can't swing the back of the trans this way because it hits the pocket for the factory e-brake, which is no longer there, but the pocket still is. And anyway, we got it in. Not too bad. Headers are bolted back up. I got to torque them down. We got the exhaust back in and the trans mount on and the drive shaft in, but to fill it with fluid, I'm gonna have to pull the exhaust back off to get to the fill bolt, which it's not a big deal. It's a pretty easy job. I think I can just drop down the front, get to it, boom, pop it back up. So yeah, we'll have to do that, but I don't have fluid. My plan was to drive it tonight all the way up until the point where it was like, okay, we got to add fluid. And I was like, we don't have that. So anyway, we got plenty more work to do. So we're going to keep on trucking. Next up is going to be up top. All right, so one nice thing I did on this car is I did a remote bleeder line, and I did it long enough to where I can stick it back in the reservoir here. So all we have to do to bleed the clutch is fill our reservoir with fluid. Hopefully we have enough. Oh, we should be good. Crack our bleeder valve here. Stick this in the fluid. Make sure it's submerged. Alright, test it out. Yep, we're good. Easy as that. All right, well, if it weren't for not having the fluid to fill the trans, we would be done and dusted with the trans swap. We'll have to go pick some up tomorrow. We drop the exhaust down, fill it up with fluid, and then we can go test drive it and see how it is. I'd like to do that as early as possible, just that way if there is an issue, we figure it out earlier. If we got to put the old trans back in, I don't know. We're not even going to think that negatively. So anyway, we're done with it for now until we can go get the fluid in the morning from the dealership. So we are going to move on to the next task at hand, the next big problem we need to fix, which is with our fuel system. It's been kind of a reoccurring problem, and it's an odd problem to diagnose because it's intermittent. Car will drive fine, be fine. I'll drift a whole day, be fine. But maybe the night of the first day, or if it's like a 2-day event, the second day, I'll start having issues with it leaning out. And it's changed. The first time it was leaning out up top, I switched some things around, it seemed to fix it. This last time at the Freedom Factory, basically on tip in, it would just go full lean. So like if you try to smash the gas at idle, it would go full lean. But once you're over like 3,000 RPM and ripping and in drift, it was fine. It was only if you tried to stab it, low RPM, free rev, underload, didn't matter. So I have 2 pumps in here. I went through and rewired all this recently. So we have the stage 1 pump as the main pump. That's on all the time, and then the second stage comes on above 3,000 RPM. So maybe just the first pump's getting weak, or it got something sucked in it, or something like that, and it's fine when the second pump takes over. Didn't have the other issues, I don't know. But being that it's so difficult to diagnose and really only presents itself, rears its ugly head midway through an event, this is not the event for that to happen. This is competition. So if this happens midway through a battle and the car just straightens out, that's not going to be good. So we're not going to take any chances. I've had great luck with all my Deechworks stuff, so I don't think any of it's the physical problem, but just for purposes of elimination, we're going to change both pumps, we're going to change the filter element, and we're also going to put their newer style regulator in it because we'll be able to have a fuel pressure sensor in it. So if we do have lean issues or weird issues, we'll also be able to see our fuel pressure, see if the fuel pressure is dropping or not. If the fuel pressure is dropping, then obviously it's a fuel supply issue. If it's not dropping, then it might be something in the tune, it might be gummed up injectors, it might be a bunch of other things. But if the fuel pressure is dropping, then that clearly tells us that's the problem. So the fresh fuel system. If we keep having issues, we know it's got to be something else. All right, got all my fittings swapped over. I've had this regulator for a while. It was originally for the RX-7, but I ended up going a different route with that car and didn't need a crazy fuel system. But I lost the fittings for it, so I ended up having to steal a couple fittings out of the Safiro one, so we'll have to replace those. But got everything in its position where it needs to be, so we'll have our Deechworks gauge on the front here, and then I have like an adapter fitting that I had the gauge threaded into before, which will put our Holley pressure transducer in. All right, we're gonna have to do a new rib nut for this. This puts it too low if I don't. All right, pressure transducer is in. Oh yeah, that wiring's a little tight. Much as I don't like it, it'll do the job for now. To cheat it a little bit, probably remake this return line at some point. But the way the two lines are, basically I'll just have to make this line a little bit longer so we can kind of straighten everything out. But for now, that'll work. That'll work. It's against my OCD, but we're on a time crunch here. All right, well, we got the fluid. Some Nissan OEM fluid. It is a beautiful day out. And man, I'm in such a rush to get this done, and I'm stressing a little bit about getting everything done. I still gotta do trailer tires, load up. I got a bunch to do, but I gotta take a step back and realize I'm driving around with the windows down on an absolutely beautiful day. Going to get gear oil, going to go racing this weekend. Sometimes you gotta take a minute. You gotta take a step back, stop stressing about what you gotta get done, and just enjoy it. I haven't been enjoying this beautiful weather because I've just been so focused on getting stuff done. So anyway, I'm trying to bring it back, reel it in. So anyway, we got the fuel jugs because I got to go get E85. We got 8 jugs, so I'm going to go get 40 gallons. I burnt through all of it in 2 events, which is pretty wild. So yeah, we're going to go top off on that, go back home, and continue on down our project path. All right, well, we got our fluid. I got 8 quarts this time, just so I have a transmission's worth sitting here in case I need it. Seem to be pulling the trans out a lot lately. So it's one of those things, nice to have the fluid on hand. Yeah, I'm gonna drop the exhaust. I'm gonna fill the trans fluid up, and then we are gonna finish out the fuel system and go test drive this thing and see where we're at. Alrighty, trans is full of fluid, exhaust is back on, trans mounts back on, skid plate reinstalled. As far as I can think of, I do feel like I'm missing something. I don't think so. I don't know. I can't think of anything. As far as I can think of, we're done with the trans swap for now, assuming there's no complications. I don't want to jinx myself. So it's time to move back to the fuel system. Let's finish this up. All right, we're gonna go ahead and pull our entire surge tank hat out so we can get to the inside. Fuel socks are looking pretty grimy. All right, so I've got 2 new pumps and a new filter element. Replace them, cover all my bases. Make sure the entire fuel system is fresh for the start of the season. All right, so this is what the bare hanger assembly looks like. You can see this thing's a work of art, man. This surge tank. So the pumps slide in. They're like a slight press fit against the O-rings. So nice, no clamps, no nothing. So we got the old pumps out. See, these things have, they've seen some abuse. There was a lot of sediment in there. They still work, so I'm gonna keep them as spares, but again, just wanna make sure we're all good, starting fresh this season with all new components. All right, got our new fuel hanger assembly completed, new wiring, new pumps, new socks, everything, all fresh. I also cleaned out the surge tank itself just to get any sort of gunk or debris out of there that was in there, just after seeing the sediment on those filters. So I'm going to toss this back together, and then we're going to pull the fuel filter out and see how that looks. Yeah, that's you probably can't see it in the camera, but it's pretty bad. So we're going to clean that out, toss a new filter in. Kind of see the color difference. All right, got the filter housing back in with the new filter. I'm gonna prime it a few times before I hook up the surge tank pumps, just that way we can kind of fill up the surge tank before those start running so they're not running dry. And then we'll see how this thing fires off. I'll also have to see what our base pressure is set at on the regulator. All right, we gotta turn the regulator up some. All right, one more prime. We've got one more project to attend to before we go take this thing for a test drive. Alright, so one thing I've never done with this car is run a lot of toe in. I usually run it at about 0 toe. Toe in will generally give you more grip, but less tire life. I always valued tire life, but we're getting to the point in competition, we got the power. Other cars are running toe in and much bigger tires than our comp tires, which are 245s. So we gotta do what we can, make it a little faster. To the back, we're gonna pull out all the way. I mean, we'll actually be able to get a decent bit. And our upper control arms are camber adjustable, so we can dial that in at the track depending on how the tires are wearing. I should have revamped this car in the off season. We've got some stuff to do between this round and the next one. Just some stuff that's been on the list, and I didn't get to it because I was busy building the Safiro. We got a bent upper control arm. I think that happened at the Freedom Factory. Bad front wheel bearing. I've got some better arms to put on the rear. We got some work to do. But for now, she should hopefully get us through this round safe and sound. Maybe competitively, hopefully competitively. I tighten these eccentrics down with a breaker bar because they do like to come loose. So I go about as tight as I can. Ugh. Well, we gotta test drive it anyway, so we'll go test drive it, give it a rip, see how it feels, see if it feels wonky, and then we'll come back and check the toe, because as much as I don't want to throw it back on the lift, we gotta do something with the front tires. That's another thing that needs to get taken care of. So let's drop her down and see how she rips. All right, well, here's what it looks like on the ground with the new Koenig wheels with comp tires on them. So I got these wheels and picked this spec based on running a 245. I've only seen the car with them with 205s, which are really stretched, and they're just kind of sunk a little bit. Whereas it's 245, it is literally perfecto. So this car just always looks so much better on 245s, especially since there's no rear bumper. And you see the whole back. I really need to spray paint the bash bar. I've been meaning to get it powder coated, but I feel like I'm just never gonna end up getting it powder coated, so I might as well just spray paint it. I don't know, we'll see. If we have time, we might do that, but we are on a time crunch. So anyway, I'm gonna stop jibber jabber and just say we're on a time crunch. We're gonna go test drive this thing. I got my fuel pressure sensor added to my screen, got all that sorted, so now we got fuel pressure on there, which is sick. Fuel pressure is set. I think we're all good to go. I think we're all ready to rip. So let's hit the road. We ideally need to do a second gear kind of launch, bang third. So we're gonna have to kind of go to a discrete area and try to figure that out. Because I need to figure out if I can bang third or if it's still a problem. If it's still a problem, then we know something else is wrong. The clutch isn't disengaging all the way, something. So, okay, I said I'd stop jibber jabbering, let's go. Turning the lights off, locking the door, we're leaving. Well, I'd say the test drive was a success. Car felt good. Shifting felt good. It would go into third no matter what. Like I said, it feels a little notchy, but I could just be being over analytical of it. With the other trans, you couldn't bang third. Like I said, it would just grind because I tried it. And it's weird because I have changed my shifting habits. I'm going to have to relearn how to shift quickly with a trans that'll let me shift quickly. But anyway, everything seems good. Fuel pressure is good. Car's running good. I mean, the fuel thing, if we have fuel issues still, I mean, I don't know what the hell it could be, but we won't know until we've been driving it for a bit. So, I mean, that's about as much testing as we can do on that. Otherwise, I think we're good to go. Now, one thing that is a problem that we're going to need to take care of is my front tires. The tires on these are not looking too hot. I think I flat spotted them a little bit, left foot braking behind Cletus at the Freedom Factory. They might last an event, they might not. So what we're gonna do, I don't have sticky front tires to put on that I would normally run, but I do have, they're out here, some Volinos. So I'm gonna mount one set of these on the Bi 8s. I have two sets of Bi 8s. If we need them, we'll have them. Might throw them on ahead of time and see how it is. If it's bad, switch back. I don't know, but we're gonna go ahead and mount them. That way we have them. I am curious to drive the car on a less grippy front tire. I just don't know that I want to go through testing that back at the first round of comp when we're also getting used to driving on big sticky tires again and yada yada. So one way or another, we're going to have them with us, at least. We're going to mount them. So. doesn't look as bad off the car. We'll bring them with us. If the car feels weird during the first run of practice, we'll just run in and swap them real quick. Well, I went ahead and threw a quick alignment on the front, and it was way off. That control arm being bent, it had more negative camber on this side, so I fixed that. The toe was a good bit off, and eccentric had slipped. It's a good thing I went through and nut and bolted the car. I really need to get better about doing it every event, not just before competitions, because stuff gets loose every time. But as far as I can tell, the car is ready to go. I did everything on my checklist. I think she's about as good as she's gonna get. It's now in my hands to drive her at the level she deserves. So, got to finish getting ready to load up for the event. I was able to get my truck tire mounted. We're waiting on trailer tires. Got to get hooked up to the trailer. Got to get this pig loaded in there. We got a good bit to do before we head out. And then we're going to the competition, first competition of the year. And man, it's a different mindset. I gotta get my head in the game. I really do. It should be fun. It should be fun. I hope to see you guys there, but if not, I'll see you when we get back to the shop. But for now, that's gonna be it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Goodbye, guys.